Episode 9 of Ralph's Stuff. Tour Duty Vietnam is a film I shot in 1969, in which I recently refound and converted to video. Timelapse Clouds show the clouds stately moving across the sky. Falling Hair with Bugs Bunny. Bugs does his effort for the war during World War II. Rock Gem and Mineral Collecting Sites with Rick Jaco. Space Thingy and Tex Ralph's Westerns. Well, hello and welcome back to the show. We're just finishing up the editing on episode 9 out here in Alexander, using the editing suite you see behind me. One of the things I'm proudest of in tonight's show is the first segment just coming up, which is a film that I actually shot in Vietnam in 1969, and I recently found it again and had it converted to video so we could share it with you guys here in the audience. So I hope you enjoy it. From 1968 to 1970, I served in ground combat in Vietnam while in the U.S. Army. Recently I found this 8mm film I'd shot during that period. I was in the 3rd Brigade of the 1st Air Cavalry Division. Served in military intelligence. This is a C-130. This is at Benoit Air Force Base sometime in March or April of 1969. Globemaster Air Force. We can tell this is not where I usually was stationed because it had asphalt rather than just the red clay dirt you see behind me now. This is Landing Zone Andy in Quan Loy, Vietnam, about up in Bien Long Province, about 15 miles from the Cambodian border, on no French rubber plantation. Those roses were planted by some French lady many years ago, or more likely her gardener. This was the plantation house that we got to use as a headquarters. This was our second time doing operations out of LCND, but the first time we got the house. This is our Tactical Operations Center, mostly underground, a bunker, protected with sandbags filled with, yes, sand, or at least red clay dirt. Looking out towards some of the helicopter pads, there's a helicopter winding up to take off. During combat, you spend probably 90% of the time waiting and doing other things rather than actually fighting. You have time to play with the cheap Kodak home movie cameras I'm doing here. And yes, that's a mustache I have. We call that a cavalry mustache. Used to wax it and curl the ends. I really like that mustache. In fact, I wanted to bring it home with me, and when I was rotating back to the States, this is a captured machine gun. A big MP told me, either you get rid of the mustache or you stay. And I said, you got a razor. And helicopter going by in the distance there. This is the radio tower that the brigade had to keep in touch with the units in the field. We had a number of battalions under us, such as the 7th United States Cavalry, Custer's old outfit. I was in it for a while. That's a Chinook helicopter flying by. They're still in use, surprisingly, even though it's 37 years later. Another view of the roses. These plantations were huge. It's one of my bosses, nice guy. Back to the roses, and a somewhat out of focus close-up of me. I was just learning to use the camera. Jeep going by. We didn't have Hummers back then. We had the little Jeeps like in World War II. Another C-130. This is that friend of mine walked in front. That's me again. This is probably when we're moving the headquarters somewhere. This looks like it's at the LCND strip, which was a 3,000-foot dirt strip. And yeah, this is definitely LCND. I recognize the hills. That's a caribou, a C6 in the background, and of course the dogs playing. Wherever there are GIs, dogs get treated well. We fed the dogs and took care of them. There goes the C6 taxiing out. This old film, it was taken in large part, there's somebody else filming, during moves and downtimes when I had time to play with the camera. When I went out in the field, I was much more concerned with staying alive than taking movies. That's a Chinook helicopter. At the end of this film, we'll fly off in one of those. That's the little terminal. Some Vietnamese workers being trucked in, another Chinook flying around. I won't tell you what we actually called them, but it wasn't Chinook. And so the guys in my unit sitting and waiting. That's something you got to do a lot in the Army. Hurry up and wait. And me again. Trusty M16 rifle. I slept with that rifle for over a year in Vietnam. Became quite a good friend. The truck backed up loading stuff into a caribou. The small twin engine transport that we used a lot during that time because it could get in and out of very, very short runways. Okay, I'm not sure what this is. Didn't realize it was still in the film. There's a tanker truck. And a bus. Very seldom saw anything that civilized out where we were. On the left you can see the yellow first cow patch. Although we normally wore the camouflage patch. I was their lead sergeant in the unit, Sergeant Garnet, Mr. Sergeant. I was an E5, so I was order battle specialist, among other things. The Huey helicopter, the 1st Cav Division had something like 800 or 900 of those, if I remember correctly. One of the largest air forces in the world, albeit rotary wing rather than fixed wing. That small vehicle we called a mule. This is actually the only civilian aircraft that I ever saw up there. It was belonged to the Frenchman on the plantation. The one landing just now is an artillery observation plane. And here comes the Chinook again. That's a light observation helicopter. Obviously I was not helping move that heavy crate in the very hot sun. I was photographing my shadow. But somebody had to do it. Young Vietnamese lady. That's a Cobra gunship. And that looks like a caribou coming in on final approach. Another view of the Cobra gunship. They had very fast machine guns called Gatling guns and rocket launchers and a lot of stuff that brought an uncomfortable situation to the enemy. And lots of helicopters coming in. This is probably one of the companies from one of our battalions coming back in. Some of the tents like we lived in. Another view of a Chinook. Here we go. Now we're actually in the Chinook, and I'm shooting out the windows. We're moved to wherever the battalion was being moved to. Then I think that was down to the Black Horse landing zone. But this is definitely LCND that we're looking at here. I recognize some of those buildings. And we're moving right along. It's amazing that I found this film only recently. It's amazing to be able to look back and remember what was going on 37 years ago. Halfway around the world in a war no one now remembers, but I was there a long time ago. Timelapse Clouds. You know, one of the nice things about having your own weekly television program in a format like Ralph's Stuff is, where you can stuff in any kind of stuff you want to stuff in, you can experiment and do all sorts of interesting things. And I have no trouble coming up with all sorts of things to film. Time-lapse photography is one of those things that's always fascinated me. And one of the video cameras I own will allow you to set intervals and actually do this. And I thought it might be nice just to point the camera out the window and take a look at the clouds and see how they move. The way this is set up, the camera films half a second of video every 30 seconds. This works out to 1 second of video per minute. That was my mailman that just came by. 1 second of video per minute, or 60 seconds for every hour. And in this particular case, we filmed a little bit over 3 hours, so we have approximately 3 minutes of video. This was filmed on November the 14th. From about 11:37 to 2:37. Pretty nice day. And other than the occasional vehicle going across the road at the top of the hill, or the truck that went by just a few moments ago here on their driveway. Not much happening out here in the county, except the clouds are moving across the sky. And that's reasonably interesting. I think it'd be fascinating if a big storm was coming up, and I'll have to do this experiment again when the weather gets a little worse than it is now. But it is truly amazing to me, technically speaking, to be able to condense 3 entire hours into about 3 minutes. A lot of activity going on up there at the level of the clouds, several thousand feet in altitude above us. And this has been an example of time-lapse photography. Now let's look at Bugs Bunny from World War II.
Get a load of this, folks. It says here, a constant menace to pilots are the gremlins who wreck planes with their diabolical sabotage. Gremlins. Oh, murder. Gremlins. What a fairy tale. Little man. Oh, brother. What's all the hubbub? Bub.
These blockbuster bombs don't go off unless you hit them just right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hey, Mac. Let me take a whack at it. What am I doing? Why, you little... Gasp! Hey, I bet that was a... Say, do you think that... Hey, could that have been a... gremlin? It ain't Vandalville Key! Well, did you hit the head of one of them?
Which way did he go, George? Which way did he go?
That way.
Well, gee, thanks a lot, George. Thanks a lot.
What's the matter, Bunny Rabbit? Speak to me. Why don't you say something? I'm only 3.5 years old.
I like him. He's silly. Nice gremlin. Woo!
We ran out of gas.
Yeah, you know how it is with these E-cards.
Let's see if we can find a garnet. While using your hammer and chisel to remove the matrix rock, you want to look for typical flat faces which will reveal a garnet crystal. Once you locate a crystal, try to remove as much of the surrounding rock as possible before trying to pry the crystal loose. If you hammer and chisel too close to the crystal, you may put too much pressure on it, causing it to break. When you've located a promising specimen and you've removed much of the surrounding rock, slowly pry the crystal from the wall. And now you have a nice specimen. Here are a few specimens I have collected over the years. Remember, by using the proper equipment and tools, you will find specimens just like these for your collection. Collectors travel here to hunt for Jimmy Red almandine garnets, kyanite, mica specimens, and some of the best quality apatite crystals in western North Carolina. An added interest to collectors is the apatite crystals will glow a bright orange under shortwave fluorescent UV light. These underground shafts extend hundreds of feet into the mountain. This next shaft runs about 60 yards off the main shaft and is slightly smaller with only about a 7-foot ceiling. The mines we will visit today are now located in the Nantahala National Forest. The original Big Shaft mine was an open pit mine or surface mine just above here. In 1944, the Bureau of Mines came to this area to do some exploratory work looking for more corundum. They drove this shaft 250 feet into the mountain to intersect the original Big Shaft mine. One of the best specimens I have seen recovered from the creek. It is a 7-pound mass of corundum with gem quality ruby forming on one side of the peak. The top of the mountain is covered with these blue-green amphibulite or smaragdite boulders. This is typical of the material found at Chunky Gal. The small rubies and the smaragdite show excellent color, but their small size makes them unsuitable for cutting material. But they do make beautiful cabinet specimens. Rarely you will find a well-formed 6-sided ruby crystal specimen just like this one. The Little Pine Garnet Mine, the Abernathy Mine, and these Buck Creek area mines all played a very important role in our economic past. But what about commercial mining in western North Carolina, and what will the future of mining bring for all of us? This next site we're going to visit might answer some of these questions.
Hello, I'm Alex Glover, and I'm Chief Geologist for Zemeckis Industrial Minerals and the Feldspar Corporation. And we're sitting here in the middle of the Chalk Mountain Mine. And
here is every rockhound's dream tool. I asked Alex if he could dig us up some nice specimens to look at. There are several interesting minerals found here that are of much interest to collectors. One is torbanite. Audenite, however, is highly fluorescent under a shortwave UV light. So by attending one of the mine tours, you may be able to locate a nice specimen of this material.
On top of Chalk Mountain with RJ and Alex Glover and the crew.
okay, here we have just a fabulous highlight opal coating on top of a joint fracture of leucogranodiuretic metatonalite.
Yeah, don't look at that. That's bad there.
You got it right there. Come on, let me hold this.
Look at these bugs.
Are there bugs on it?
Yeah, they're coming to the light.
I'm learning animation, and space singing is an exercise that I did, as a matter of fact, this week. It's very recent. I created the space thingy just from scratch. Don't really know what it is. And of course the ground, but now the sky, the space scene behind it is actually the Sombrero galaxy from the Hubble Space Telescope. It's an actual photograph that I used as a background for the space thingy to maneuver against. This consists of approximately 2,000 frames and takes several hours to render, but it seems to look pretty good, so I enjoyed it. Honesty, courage, hard work, fair play, and that a good little man can always kick the butt of a big bad man. They were and still are gosh darn entertaining. Comic sidekicks like Gabby Hayes, Smiley Burnett, and Arkansas Slim Andrews, and horses like Roy's Trigger, Gene's Champion, Tom Mix's Tony, all got higher billing than the women in B-Westerns. Women played only secondary supporting roles. Still, in the darkness of the theater and afterwards out in the Saturday afternoon sunlight, playing cowboys and Indians long before political correctness changed the name of our favorite boyhood game, we knew we were right and lived in the greatest land of all, because Gene and Roy and Hoppy and all our other heroes told us so and showed us how to live a good moral life by riding hard, drawing fast, and never, ever stealing a horse or rustling a cow. Go to ralphwroberts.com to see this show again.